Hi everyone on YouTube, this is Goku here. I just want to show you the Battlefield 3 performance with two EVGA 670 GTX 41 graphics cards and Nvidia SLI configuration. So, you know, it's double the performance. As you can see, I got Fraps running. So we're just waiting, and it's installed on an SSD, so you can see it load pretty fast. You can see some flickering. I don't know how bad you can see it. There's like mountains. Oh, there we go. It stopped. It might have been because of the drivers. You know, because these drivers are really new. I'm using the 3010 or 310.70 Nvidia drivers, the official WHQL drivers from Nvidia. So right now we're just going to show you the performance. Let's see, I'm trying to show, whoops, sorry about that. This is a Caspian border 64 player server. The resolution's 1920 by 1200. Max highest settings you can. Ultra, it's ultra settings, so the highest 1920 by 1200. And it's really extremely demanding, so we're going to play a little bit of this. So yeah. So I'm just going to drive around. Right now the frames per second, I don't know how well you can see, it's showing 110, 112. I'm in the Jeep right now. And we're just going to kind of drive around. So it's showing 104, 108, 105. Okay, so right here, big, a lot of smoke. It dropped down to 75 frames per second, 85 frames per second. So, like I said if you remember my first SLI, when I was showing the cards, I was only getting 60 to 80 frames per second average. With these two cards, on just like a regular map, I'm getting 100 to 130 frames per second. So we're seeing double frames per second. Right here, oh, there's a tank, he's shooting at me. So I'm getting 100 and... yeah, I got a tank shooting at me. Oh, yay! Oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Okay, so right here, oh, yeah, I'm gonna just have myself blow up right here. So it's 100, and okay, right there, that big explosion, it dropped down to 80. It's showing 75 frames right there. So we're just gonna walk around. Now this is with the two cards in SLI. Keep in mind with newer drivers you're going to get more of a performance increase over time. So here's a good example right here, just looking straight. It's saying 135, 140, and I'm not looking at I'm just looking straight ahead, walking. Here, we'll walk a little bit. 135, 100, which is insane. Now if I go to look up at the sky, which I don't normally do, I'm getting 192 frames per second, 185. So we're just going to run around with the explosions. It's extremely smooth. If you watch a lot of my newer videos, you'll see I have like a frames per second counter that's built into Battlefield 3. You just type render.draw FPS, and then you could do 1 or true, and then it will type it in there. Right here, big area, 64 players. I'm getting 84 frames per second. I think on my other videos, I was getting something like 60 frames per second average, and so 55 to 60 frames per second average. And you can see right here, I'm getting 85. So it's close to double. You're gonna see, it really depends on the map that you're playing on and the performance. See right here, 83, 82, and I'm just walking around right now where there's some smoke. So there's a big tank with explosion, it's 81. Yeah, the performance is crazy. Before you wouldn't get this much. Okay, so right now I'm just going to try shoot. Oh, there's a tank. So I'm going to just shoot a gun right now. Here's a grenade. And you'll see the frames per second. So it didn't drop at all. There's a tank. Oh man. So yeah, the performance is insane. It's almost double. Here, I'll just let this guy kill me right now. 125, right there, 85, 83. I think, yeah, if you watch my other video, I'm getting some like 55 frames per second average to 60. Usually it's about 60 to 80 frames per second. So now that was Caspian border, 64 player server. There was 51 people on that server. Now we're going to try Gulf of Oman, which I think in my mind is probably one of the most demanding Battlefield 3 maps that they have. And let's see, we'll try one with 31 people. There's 60. This is a 64 player server, Gulf of Oman. And if you want to compare, because these are two cards in Nvidia SLI, the two EVGA 670 GTX for the wins, they are at stock factory overclock settings. So 1006 megahertz core clock, memory clock is 1552 megahertz, and the boost clock is 1085 megahertz on the boost clock. So this is Gulf of Oman, very, very demanding map, extremely demanding. And yeah, let's see. Okay, so I'm in a helicopter right now, and you can see some kind of flickering. That might be, it's not my video card's broken, it just might be like a driver problem. I noticed that when I upgraded the new drivers. We're seeing right now the frames per second. So yeah, it's pretty insane. We're getting 75 frames per second average right now. 120 frames per second average. And it jumps around, it's kind of complicated. Okay, that big explosion right there dropped it down to 74 frames per second. But yeah, now it's 70 frames per second. It jumps around. You'll just have to really test it out and see how it plays. This is at extreme settings, so 1920 by 1200 on ultra, the highest graphics settings you can have in the game. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had drops with explosions where it literally dropped to like 40 frames per second on this map with big explosions with one card. And we're not seeing that at all. We're seeing 75, the lowest I've seen is 70. So we can show you the frames per second. So that right there dropped it down to 61 frames per second. And before with the one card, the frames per second would drop to about 40. Really, when you're playing, I mean, these are just like worst case scenarios. Really, when you're playing, I'm not kidding, it's 60 to 80 frames per second with one card, with one EVGA 670 GTX for the win. And then with two EVGA 670 GTX for the wins, it's about 100 to 130 frames per second. And a lot of my videos, I started recording with MSI Afterburner. And MSI Afterburner works with SLI, and I'm only losing maybe 15 to 20 frames per second while recording, which is not bad at all. That's not bad at all. So now we're just going to drop out, and I'm just parachuting right now. 107 frames per second. Oh, sorry, somebody's shooting at me. So 115, yeah, and I just got hit. 155 frames per second average. 75 right there when we're looking at the tank. So yeah, it's not that bad. It might be a driver problem. I think the 3010.70 beta driver, I was getting a little bit more performance. It didn't really dip this much, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you guys the performance of the two EVGA 670 GTX for the Win graphics cards. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment. I definitely recommend these cards in SLI. The performance is insane. And tell me what you think. Thank you.